Hello, everyone. This is Liz. Unfortunately, there were some technical difficulties, so I'm just going to record this rather than risk the stream dying out again. Actually, you didn't see this earlier, but this is my jacket full of movie pins. Bong Joon-ho, Kurt Russell in The Thing, Black Phillip from The Witch, John Waters, another witch, Joan Crawford, also Joan Crawford. This is from The Read, Jurassic Park, Midsummer, The Stuff, and because I love The Simpsons, Hank Scorpio. On this end, I have Us, Glow, The Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling, Suspiria. I have Grace Jones, Catwoman, and Karen from Night of the Living Dead. Can't say I don't love this stuff. Anywho, so Freebie Friday, there is a new service that I'm aware of, and that's IMDb TV. And the first one I'm going to recommend is Cloud Atlas. I talked about that a little earlier this week. And because I talked about the Wachowski sisters, and I love this movie. It is definitely you have to commit time to it. It's about 3 hours long. It's an adaptation of David Mitchell's book, and it was initially thought to be an unfilmable movie. And what it is it's 6 interconnected stories, and for dramatic effect, the Wachowskis have the same cast of actors in each story, and sometimes they're made up to be, characters of a different gender, different race. In some cases, they're aliens. Some cases, they're androids. And I think it's just a beautiful film. And the overall message of connection is a beautiful one. And I can't recommend it enough. It was one of Roger Ebert's favorites of 2012. So he and I agree on a lot of things. The other one I'll recommend is Spotlight. That was the 2015 Best Picture winner. And if you don't know what that is about the 2002 Boston Globe report that blew the whole church sex abuse thing open. And oh boy, I remember being a teenager in Massachusetts when that broke. But I think it's a great movie because it is so understated. I think another person probably could have made this where it's crusading journalists working against everyone else telling them no, everyone trying to shut them down. And this movie is very more, I think, just grounded in reality, probably because it's a true story, but it doesn't try to fudge anything for dramatic effect too much. And personal note, I actually worked in a news organization when I was in grad school, and I've seen what reporters have to do, and I've been a part of the research end of people having to spend hours looking through directories, pouring through stuff, and just making sure things are correct. And so to see a movie pretty accurately portray that made me very happy. So on to Tubi. The first movie I'm going to recommend is My Friend Dahmer. I have recommended this before because it's on Amazon Prime. I love this movie, and it's based on a fantastic graphic novel of the same name, written by a man called Derf Backderf. Obviously a pen name. And it is about Jeffrey Dahmer's teenage years. And it is not fiction. The author actually went to high school with Jeffrey Dahmer and was an acquaintance of his, and there's something so unsettling about this reality of this person who went on to do such horrible things. No one caught on to there's something very wrong with him, because from everything the author tells us, it was apparent there was something wrong. Anyway, on to something that's still pretty dark, but I think a great movie. It's the movie that introduced America to Christopher Nolan. I'm talking about Memento. I remember reading Entertainment Weekly in around 2000 and hearing about this. And, give me a break. It's one of the few magazines I could get when I was, in suburbia. And finally seeing that movie when I was a teen, it just blew me away the way that it was constructed, the storytelling, the narrative structure of it. And again, it was like seeing Run Lola Run. I, as a young film person, had not seen too many movies that play with narrative structure. Christopher Nolan has moved on to a lot bigger movies. That new trailer for Tenet, I can't wait. But if he can still tell a great story, and if you want a great story, I would watch Memento. See it if you haven't. Third recommendation for Tubi is a great little comedy called But I'm a Cheerleader. I recommended Slums of Beverly Hills yesterday, starring Natasha Lyonne, and this is definitely one that has a very passionate following. It is a comedy about a girl and some other kids who were sent to one of those Pray the Gay Away camps. Again, this was made in the late 90s, early aughts. Thankfully, those places are not as common now. But it's both biting satire and genuinely very sweet, and I think it is a fantastic little movie, and there's a reason a lot of people my age love it. It is, again, good comedy, ages very well. On to Crackle. So if you need an action movie, I'm going to recommend a Zoe Bell feature called Angel of Death. Who is Zoe Bell, you ask? So if you've seen a Quentin Tarantino movie, you have definitely seen her. So she is Uma Thurman's stunt double in Kill Bill. She was in The Hateful Eight. She was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And she is in Death Proof, and she is the one who does the ship's captain. I have met Zoe Bell. She is adorable, and she is actually a lot tinier than you think she'd be. But she is in fantastic shape. She looks like she could snap a person in half. But she's a stunt woman. It's what she does. So if you want a good, 80-minute action movie, there's Angel of Death. If you want something a bit more on the horror suspense side, there's 10 Cloverfield Lane. Now, I'm actually not a fan of the original Cloverfield. I found everyone in it to be annoying, and I found the lack of payoff to be irritating, and I'm like, I also didn't like Lost. I like a show that makes you have to dig deeper, but I don't like it when you have to do 8 hours of homework every week for a show. Your mileage may vary, but I think Lost was terrible, and I didn't like Cloverfield, but 10 Cloverfield Lane is great. It stars Mary Elizabeth Winstead and John Goodman, and again, John Goodman is he is always a force to be reckoned with, movie-wise and acting-wise. And basically, her car breaks down. There is a cataclysm going on outside. This guy offers her, she wakes up in a bunker, and things go from there. It actually, thankfully, doesn't go in some sleazier routes, and it's, I think, much more effective at this mystery disaster than the original Cloverfield was. So on to some of our final movies. We're going to Voodoo. The first is Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? I am on record with being a huge Coen Brothers fan, and this is their take on, I think it was Homer's The Odyssey, and it's like in 1930s America. There's a lot of bluegrass. Actually, I know some people who are like, I hated this movie, but I loved the soundtrack. It's definitely one of their more experimental movies, but I think it's really fun. And, there is, the way that one of the kids pronounces the word bona fide, I still pronounce it that way. He's bona fide. But I think it's a great movie. Speaking of great movies and great performances, Good Morning Vietnam is free on Vudu, starring the legendary Robin Williams. And this was when Robin Williams was starting to become, I think people were starting to recognize him as an actual performer, but because Robin Williams was taking risky roles as early as World According to Garp. But Good Morning Vietnam is when people started to notice, oh, hey, this guy isn't just a funny man, he can act. And this is just one of those, it's a film classic. If you haven't seen it, you should. And the final one I'm going to recommend is definitely an extremely personal recommendation. It is the movie Bill Hicks' Sane Man. When I was in college, high school. Time's a flat circle. One of my friends introduced me to a comedian called Bill Hicks, and I was a George Carlin fan, Richard Pryor, Margaret Cho, so I immediately really liked Bill Hicks. He was in my wheelhouse, and he was not, I would say, just like Lenny Bruce, but he was similar to George Carlin in that he was very good at pointing out problems with the status quo, problems with society, but also not punching down on anybody, and also good at being philosophical. He died very early in life of pancreatic cancer in the early 90s, but he did, thankfully, he went into comedy fairly early, so he left behind a big catalog for people, and the fact that I, in the early aughts, could discover someone that died 10 years ago and be like, this guy's great, other people should listen to him, that speaks to the power of entertainment and the legacy that it can lead. Hopefully you'll watch one of these movies, and we will see you next week. Have a wonderful Memorial Day.